Take care. Syllabi. Hi everyone, Matt Ellis, your instructor from ORL 201, Intro to Organizational Leadership here at LaSalle University. Just here to provide a mini lecture for where we've been and where we're going. So let's start with the syllabi. We are now moving into Unit 3. Okay, so look at your syllabi for that information to do this week's work. But looking back a little bit, where we've been, if you look at Chapter 1 in Bowman and Deal, I'd like to just share a few sort of summary thoughts about the material that we've covered. And the key ones are these, and that is simply the idea of cluelessness, which is that management and leadership can be clueless because they don't have the right view of an organization. They may be relying on their biases, their assumptions, and also the very good work experiences and training that they have. But even those things are not enough to sometimes accurately assess and lead in a particular set of circumstances. So cluelessness does prevail, and I'm sure you may have seen it in your organization from time to time. And so Bowman and Deal give us these 4 frames, and that is the structural frame, the human resources frame, the political frame, and the symbolic frame, and of course the elements that are associated with each one. And that's what we're going to be studying for the next several weeks. One of the things Bowman and Deal say is that multiple frames allow a leader to look at a new or a very familiar business circumstance and make new decisions, new assessments, new evaluations in order to apply the right resources to get the right people moving and get good things accomplished. So you can use multiple frames, not just one, to look at a particular situation, and as we move through each one, you'll see how that is possible. So that's a very, very brief summary of Chapter 1. The reading will start slow, but as we move through the units and the weeks, it will increase, and so will the posting activity and the journal activities and other things that I'll be asking you to do. So that's Chapter 1. Within Unit 1, we also looked at a URL called the New Core of Leadership, and it was provided by the American Society of Training and Development, ASTD. The author is Clark Aldrich, and he talked about 6 elements of leadership that are very, very important. One is power, obviously just the ability to get things moving in the right direction. And sometimes that power is informal with simple networks and alliances, and sometimes it's very formal, having direct reports, direct authority to get things done. So obviously power is key. The second is ideas, either providing ideas or inspiring others to bring ideas forward. And to do that, you need to create an environment that's safe and allows for those ideas to be welcomed and then evaluated. So that is important. The third element is tension. The right amount of stress for an individual to be inspired and do great work, but not so much that the person is overwhelmed. That's a very, very artistic element of leadership. There's no quantitative answer to that. It's simply what you know about that person to be able to do the right job, and how much do we turn up the heat, if you will, as Ron Heifetz would say, to get maximum performance out of a person. So the third element is to provide the right amount of tension and energy for a person to do the right work. The fourth is a good one, of course. It's commitment. That's what's the right work to be done at the right time with the right people. Is the leader committed to it? And then, of course, are his constituents committed to getting those things done? The fifth is balance. And what the article talked about was a balance of communication. Do you push somebody harder, or do you back off with another person because that's what's going to work with their style? Does your energy need to be very, very intense with some people, very laid back with others? Is there a balance of individual motivation and individual work with people, or is it in groups? What makes sense? And balancing that is important for leaders to be effective. And then finally, Aldrich talks about practice, and that leadership is a skill like any that needs to be practiced, needs to be worked on, needs to be evaluated so that you can do it effectively. So those are some things that were part of the New Core of Leadership article for this week's work. Moving ahead, when we go into Chapter 2, we're going to talk about 4 very unique characteristics. Bowman and Deal state that Organizations are complex, surprising, deceptive, and ambiguous. And those four elements make organizations very interesting and very fun and potentially challenging places to do work. But because they're complex, surprising, deceptive, and ambiguous, they provide challenges. So what leaders need to do, Bowman and Deal say, is to try to make sense of an organization based on how it works, how it gets things done. But then the flip side is, what are your inner workings as a leader? As I kind of mentioned before, your biases, your training, your experience, the assumptions that you bring to your work can also be something that makes your organization complex, surprising, deceptive, and ambiguous. So you bring some of that to an organization because of your biases and your preconceptions. So what is really important is to play with the frames as we go through this work and this reading and our understanding of them, so that you can apply them and see how they can help you or potentially your organization to perform better in your work. Next week's work also has another URL by a gentleman named David Coate, and he is the CEO of Honeywell. So look for that URL as just another supplemental learning experience. So with that, have a great week. Do the readings, do the postings, keep up the work. It is outstanding. Your intellectual rigor with the postings is good, and feel free to jump in and, of course, do your best. So have a good week. Call me if you need me, and we'll see you soon.